Right.
Hi.
So we're recording magic. Okay, so this evening we're going to talk about dive knives, and really I'm not going to give you a load of answers, but I'm going to hopefully give you some questions that you're going to think about. And I guess I'm going to start by asking a question of everybody. What's the purpose of our dive knives then? Why do we carry them? What's the main? We've got a few reasons we carry them, but anyone know?
Emergency.
Yeah, cut yourself free from lines and
Keep yourself safe.
entanglement.
Yeah, so the main thing is, well, obviously we want to look cool, don't we? If we want a nice big knife to look cool and macho, that's a big start. We then want to be we want them for protection against wildlife, don't we? We want to be fighting off sharks with them, that kind of thing. Is that relevant? No. So obviously that's my attempt at humour, but what we really want them for is for cutting out of entanglement. That's what we really want. So I've heard that from a few different people. When we go to the Maldives, we can crack open a coconut with them as well. So when you're sitting on the beach, you can open the old coconuts with them. But the main reason we're carrying them is for entanglement. Okay, so what sort of things are we going to get caught up in then, as divers, as wreck divers, or as in any sort of diving? What's the main thing we're going to get caught up in?
Fishing line, fishing
Net.
Yeah, ropes and net and that kind of thing, isn't it?
Wire.
Okay, yeah. So if our dive knife, if its main job is to be cutting us free from entanglement, and those things that we're going to get tangled up in are ropes and fishing line, it follows that our knife should be pretty good at cutting that. Yeah. So we want a decent knife that can cut, or a decent knife, or let's say cutting tool. Everyone know about cutting tool? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So we'll need something that's going to be able to cut what we're going to get caught up in. Yeah. Now, can I just have a show of hands? Has anyone, obviously we've got a lot of people, we've got people on here who've been around a while. Anyone actually used their knife in anger? And I don't mean to chase a crab. I don't mean to bother the wildlife. I mean to cut someone free.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, go on, Robin.
Net. We were in Oman. We used to go net collecting. The fishermen used to put their nets down. They used to get caught on all the rocks and all the nice stuff, and we would go down with the permission and retrieve the old nets off the seabed. Right. Now, when some of those nets were monofilament, which they shouldn't have been, but they were, and when you're in that sort of water, you sometimes can't see monofilament, and we have divers that swim straight into them. And when a diver gets into a net, it's quite difficult to get themselves out. They do need to have assistance from other people, because once they start moving with monofilament net, it gets around everything. And so we had to go in and cut one diver out, because he came out of an opening straight into the net without seeing it. And the next thing was, there he was in the net.
And what did you use to cut him then? Was it a knife? Was it a?
We had snips.
Okay.
You know, the surgical snips.
Yeah.
Because we were on a net cutting exercise.
Yeah.
Wanted something that was, but knives would have done it. But I used to find that with nets, the scissor type cutters were far more efficient than a knife.
Yeah. All right, Gareth, did you say you used one as well?
Yeah, I used both the snips, the surgical snips, and the sort of hooky ones, and again on monofilament.
Okay.
I've had to cut a sort of proper rope once, but that was underneath a boat, and they gave me a big knife that was razor sharp for that, and that took a lot of effort.
So that wasn't someone getting caught up. That was because he got
that was actually the boat was caught, to be honest.
Right. Okay.
And also, I think I might have cut out of sort of like a line on the bottom before now, but that was thin line, not a bloody great big rope.
Right, magic. Okay, so on the call now, we've got people who've actually used this in anger. What sort of depth were you at, Robin?
15 meters.
Okay. And Gareth?
A bit deeper than that, 40-ish, 50-ish, something like that, on one of them anyway.
Okay, magic. So perfect. We'll leave that there for a minute, and we'll talk about everything that we've just brought up in just a second. So I just want to talk about the law for a second, about what the rules are about carrying knives. Now, and to do this, I googled it up and I went on the government website. I went on the .gov website, and what it says is that it's illegal to carry a knife in public without good reason, unless it has a folding blade with a cutting edge of 3 inches or less. Okay. Now, for me, the term is good reason. Okay. So this is my view. I don't have anything to do with the law, but as divers, we've got good reason to carry knives. Yeah, because we're using them as part of our diving equipment, as a cutting tool. Yeah. But we need to be clear about this. We're not talking about wandering around Tesco's with our 8-inch knife strapped to our ankle, are we? We're talking about part of our dive kit while we're diving. So on the way to the dive site, our dive knife sat in the boot. It's not sitting on the passenger seat beside us. And then we put it away when we go, in the same way that a chef can take a knife to work and that kind of thing. But it's all about context, isn't it? If I'm wandering around with my dive knife being silly, well, I'm going to get in trouble. But if it's in your dive bag, part of your kit, then we're okay. Everyone agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, seems sensible.
Yeah, everyone. That's so. You know, it's about being sensible and it's about in context. So in the same way, you can have knives and tools and bits and pieces in the back of your car, in the back of your van. That's just what we're doing. Okay, but you take it out of that context and take it into Tesco's, we're in a very different story, aren't we? Magic. Right. So I'm going to talk about 3 types of dive knife. I think we've got everyone. Oh, sorry, is that Alex? Yeah. Oh yeah, there is another section on that. I think it is worth looking up that website, because if you're using it in a threatening manner, then it becomes offensive. Absolutely. So if we're being sensible, and I think we all are sensible, then we shouldn't have a problem. Okay. So let's talk about knives then. I'm going to break this down into 3 parts then. I'm going to talk about normal knives. I'm going to talk about scissors and snips, which we've just briefly mentioned, and we're going to talk about net cutters and those kind of cutting tools. Does that make sense? We're going to break it down into those 3 parts. Okay. So, and the first thing I'm going to do is I've got a small collection of knives. It's not like I'm weird or anything, but I've been diving a little while, and they're all sitting around in the garage because they're all varying levels of crap. And what I want to show you is that what works and what doesn't work. So let's just have a little look at some knives. I'm going to start with fixed blade knives, okay? I'm just going to move this camera around. So this is my kitchen, obviously. I'm going to start off with a big old, so can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've got here is this is a large fixed blade knife in a plastic scabbard with a set of ankle straps on it, okay? Almost a classic scuba knife, yeah? So the material on this one is stainless steel, and we've got 2 buttons that keep it in the scabbard there. I don't know if you can see that. And pull it out, and we've got the blade on this one is 4.5 inches, okay? And if we take it from there, we've got a serrated section on the top for cutting, for sawing. This one's got a blunt tip, and we've got a regular blade and then a hook across here down the bottom. Okay, the hook is for net cutting and that kind of thing, but this is what I would call a classic diver's knife. Okay, stainless steel needs care, so what we should do is cover all this in silicone grease. Everyone know about silicone grease? You get a little pot of silicone grease, it gets all over your hands and it's a pain in the backside. It needs to be cleaned in fresh water. And another feature of this one, so we've got the handle, the blade, and this section on the back is called the pommel. Okay, so one of the other uses for dive knives is that we can bang them. We bang this bit against our cylinder, and we can use it for a kind of rough signaling device. Okay, that make sense so far?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, we said stainless steel needs care. Should we look at what happens when we don't look after stainless steel? So this section of the blade that goes right through the handle is called the tang. Okay, and I can take this one to pieces for cleaning. So if I give that a little push there, the whole blade comes out. Now, some of you will be appalled. I don't know if you can see that rust on there.
Yep.
Yeah. So my job for tomorrow is going to be to clean this one. I don't generally carry it around with me, but so what's happened is we've got a bit of salt water in here, and it's left to fester, and it's gone all horrible. And that's what will happen to a stainless steel knife if you don't look after it. Any questions on that one?
No.
So that's big, dopey, goes on your leg, on your ankle, or they're quite difficult to store this size of knife. Goes back into its scabbard, clicks in, and then should stay in place quite nicely. Okay. However, I used to have a titanium model of this knife, and it's now sitting at the bottom of the sea. And you would say this is sort of karmic retribution, I think, that I took it out to prod a crab with, and it fell out, and I lost it forever. So it's probably still sitting there because, well, that's what it does, isn't it?
That flat blade end, Paul,
Yeah.
acts as a screwdriver.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yes. Actually, the flat blade is for prying and screwdrivers and that sort of thing. Yeah. So this knife comes with a sharp edge, with a sharp blade, or a blunt blade. But as a tool, I find that the blunt edge is better for prying and screwdriving and that sort of thing. So, and if we were to cut a rope with this, we can either take it like this and pull through, or use a serrated edge for sawing with it. Just, if we look at the mounting brackets on this one, they're a bit of a pain. Can you see that, or is it in shadow?
It's in shadow.
In shadow.
But we know it. There you go. That's it.
Okay. So you can see there that we've got these ankle holsters. We can make it so that it will fit on a belt as well if we want to. It's a big lump to have on your belt. So, I mean, they still sell these and people still use them. So, and moving on from, so I mentioned stainless steel there. The other material that we can use for this is titanium. Okay. Now, this is a much smaller knife, but it's made of titanium. And again, I found this one at the bottom of the sea without a scabbard, which again, is that karma? I don't know. But again, if you look at the features of it, we've got the same sort of knife, but the same hook on it for cutting net, the same serrated edge at the top there, and then the regular blade there. And this one's got a pommel, again, for signaling. Okay. This one's blunt and terrible, to be honest, but yeah. But with titanium, we don't need to do it. We don't need any maintenance or care for it because it won't rust. Yeah. Any questions on that one?
No.
No. So that's a fixed blade knife. Now, this is the one that I'm using at the moment. That's on my kit. So this is a small kind of a BC knife. Squeezes. I don't know if you can see this, but the squeeze there.
Yep. And
it comes out of the scabbard like that. One of the things I really like about this one is the mounting options with it. So if you look on the side there, we've got the two holes for putting some ankle straps in, but we've also got a big slider here that will fit over a piece of harness. Now, one of the problems with mounting stuff on regular BCs, on that they've got straps that can't be undone. They've got a bit of stitching at the end that stops the buckle coming off. But with this one, I can take this screw out, and I can open this up, and I can pretty much place it anywhere I want on my kit. So any strap, this will fit on any strap. So for me, that's one of the big bonuses of it. We're going to look at BCs in a minute and where we're going to mount them, but that for me is a big bonus. Sorry, I'm just going to try and. That doesn't make that any better, does it?
You have to turn it slightly to catch the light. That's better.
There you go.
That's fair.
Okay. Right. Okay. So this particular knife, squeeze it to come out, and again we've got a serrated edge on it. It's got a sharp edge, but a much smaller sharp edge here. Another net hook, and this one, I think this is a bottle opener kicking around here as well. And again, the blade goes right the way through, and it's got this solid stainless section for signalling as well. Okay, and so one of the things I like, the main thing I like about this one is I can put it anywhere, and it's relatively small and handy. Okay, we'll come back to those. Now, this knife, right, this is a cautionary tale. So back when I was younger, I used to look at a lot of things on the internet. I used to look at a lot of diving forums and read an awful lot of things. And there used to be a forum called Yorkshire Divers, and it's been bought out now and is rubbish. But around about 2010, that was the big one, you know. And on there, they said that this knife was the best thing going. I don't know if you can see it. It's tiny. And I thought, yeah, that's great, because all I want is a small little knife, and I can hold it between my finger and thumb. But actually using it for cutting anything is ridiculous, because it's just too small. You can't get any hold on it. If you're going to have a knife, it needs to have a decent sized handle that you can hold on to. So really what I'm saying is, yeah, look at all the articles on the internet, read those things, make your own decision though, because this was a terrible, terrible thing. And I thought I could fit it up behind my computer somewhere. It'd be nice and handy, but really, it's a waste of time. And I've got a garage full of bits and pieces that are a waste of time. I'm sure everyone, Gareth, you must have, Robin, Bez.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all. So what I'm saying is, just have a think about it. So that was fixed blade knives. And we've also got a little bit we can do with folding knives. So something like this, fairly small, fairly cheap, folds out, and we've got a serrated edge and a little one. I don't use this because it's a bit of a pain in the backside to get out and find. It's another thing to do. So, but folding knives, if they work for you, that's fine by me. So fairly small, fairly cheap, easy to get, easy to hide, you know? Not hide, that's the wrong word. Easy to place on your kit is what I meant to say. Okay, so just moving on again. Anyone got any questions, comments?
Not yet.
No? Magic. Okay, so this is what both Robin and Gareth were talking about earlier, some aqua snips, these kind of surgical things. They come in a nice little, well, these ones are Beaver aqua snips. They come in a nice little little holder that'll fit on, you can either clip it somewhere or it'll fit on a strap. And what we've got in here are just straightforward shears or scissors or whatever you want to call them. We've got a stainless steel blade on them, small serrations on the inside. They're small, cheap, and easy to put anywhere. They're not much good for banging and signalling because there's no weight to them, but they're really good at cutting, just as Robin said and Gareth said. So these ones will cut through pretty much anything. But there's a trade-off here. So this is a nice new set. You can see how they sort of flip open. Everyone see that? This is an old set. So if you can see the rivet there,
yeah.
Although the body's stainless steel, the rivet isn't stainless steel. That's made of mild steel. And if you can see there, that's all rusty and horrible. And what happens is they become harder to cut with. And that's all right, because we can all manage that. But then when you go and cut something that's difficult, the bit that is that rivet. Okay? So I'm not saying don't get these. I'm saying they're very, very good. But what I am saying is you need to keep an eye on them. Don't just keep them in their little pouch and leave them alone. I would say these are probably 5 or 6 years old to get into this state. But everyone see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you really care, you can drill out the rivet, put a little brass screw in there, a little nut and screw. But yeah. So, but these are cheap and cheerful and will fit anywhere nicely. All happy there?
Yeah.
And the flat end is
We'll
so
talk
that you
about
can't damage
shears.
your kit with it.
We've got a different set here, and these are dedicated scuba shears, okay? So again, the body's made of stainless steel. In this case, the screw, the pivot point is also stainless steel. I'm not sure about this spring though. I doubt very much that that's going to be made of stainless because I think it's quite difficult to make a spring out of stainless steel. So that's going to rust eventually. But on here, we've got the cutting blades, and we've also got a serrated blade there as well. So we can cut with that part there. So these ones are dedicated kind of scuba shears. They don't come with a holster, but I found something on Amazon, a little gardener's pouch that fits on my harness that works. So these are, I would say, a step above the the sort of surgical ones, but they're bigger and harder to put anywhere. Okay, any questions on cutters, on shears and scissors? Anyone got anything to say? No? Magic. So our third thing that we're going to look at is net cutters. Has anyone seen anything like this before?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is what Gareth was talking about. So these are small, fairly cheap and easy to put places. So we've got a Velcro strap there, pull out, and we've got a little molded plastic handle, and then an enclosed blade sitting in here. Okay, and these are specifically designed for monofilament line. Okay, so the blades are replaceable, so that we can change those out if we need to. As they get older, you can see on there we've got rust and horrible stuff in there. The blade's still sharp, and we can change that. This one's made by Dive-Right, I think, and it's a Z knife. Now, one of the restrictions with these is they can only cut as wide as this hook is. Okay, we're going to get through to cutting some bits and pieces up in a second, and you'll see how well this one does it. But one of the restrictions is it can't cut a big thick rope. Okay, so if we're trying to cut a shot line with it, it's not going to do it. Does that make sense? So again, the holster for it is this little pouch, and it just slots in here. So that's a dedicated line cutter. One of the more modern ones are these easy cut trilobite jobs. Now these ones are very popular. They've got a ceramic body, and they've got two enclosed blades in here, but it's slightly narrow on what it can actually cut. So again, this one will cut through line very nicely, but it won't cut through big thick rope. Yeah, and again, the pouch is still on my kit, on my kit, but it fits in a very similar pouch to before. It's got Velcro on the inside of here, so they're quite easy to mount and easy to get out, and very effective at cutting line. Okay, any questions on any of those? Any comments? Anyone got anything to say there? No? All happy. Magic. Right. So,
Paul, on a budget.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
On a budget, I mean, which one would you go for to begin with if you're starting diving?
Well, I think let's go through everything that we've let's go through them all and then try and work that out, because I'm not sure there is one answer to this. Do you know what I mean? I think that yeah, I mean, for me, I have a small knife, and I don't think these are especially expensive. When I bought this one, it was around about 20 quid. It was on some special deal, and I carry these, the two of them combined, and I think I cover most basics there. But yeah, do you mind if we cover this at the end, Steve? Because I want to try and draw some conclusions.
Yeah, sure. It's and also just thinking of how many you could actually carry at any one time, but you choose that presumably.
Yeah, well, we'll look at that in just a second. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is just look at, first off, all the experienced people we've got on. Where do you keep your knife? Bez, where does your knife sit?
I'm sitting on my BC cam belt. It's
On your
just
waist
here,
band? Yeah, magic.
so I can grab it, do what I need to do, put it back.
Yeah. Alex, what about you?
Within the chin hip triangle. So it's depends what I've got else configured, where I put it, but definitely between let's say the chin hip triangle.
Yeah.
So from here down to my waistline, it's in there. I'd never have it on my ankle.
No.
No.
Martin, what about you?
Up here on my BCD.
Oh, magic. Okay, well, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get my BC. I've got a BC here, and I'm going to look at mounting options and where we can keep them. So Alex just made a really good point there about his chin, about. There's a school of thought. Gareth, you might be able to help me out here, but there's a school of thought goes that anything that's essential needs to be below your chin and above your belly, above your waist. So what Yeah, you're muted there, Gareth. The triangle of fun, is it?
Right, yeah, the triangle of, I can't remember what the second phrase is, but yeah, exactly as Alex said, the triangle from the chin down to the waist.
Yeah, and I think the knife on the ankle is not ideal. I think if we talk about when we get caught up, it's already squeaky bum time because someone's all caught up in line. And if you're trying to get down to your ankle to pull that out, and it's not an ideal situation. Certainly on the outside is especially bad because you can only reach that with one hand. On the inside of your ankle, yeah, you might stand a chance, but it's not ideal, okay? And you're making things more difficult than you need to be. So let me just grab my BC and just have a look. Okay, so can everyone see me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is a kind of a standard BC that we've all got. And one of the problems that we've got is these edges are nicely sealed, aren't they? So we can't take this buckle off. We can't undo this buckle and slot something on here, which is good. But so that means we're not going to lose the edge of our buckle, okay? But it makes it a bit of a pain to put things on. So if I'm mounting a knife, I really want it to be somewhere between here and here. Just as Bez said, he's got it on his waistband. As Alex said, he's got it somewhere around here, depending on what he's doing. In terms of mounting options, let's look at, so I'm using this one because it's my favorite, okay? So this knife, we've got this opening on the bottom here. Can we see that? Yeah, we've got this clip that opens up. So if I choose that I want it here, I can slide it on. I can put my little screw back in there, and it's sitting nicely on my waistband where I can reach it with one hand or with the other hand, and where my buddy can see it if he needs it, okay? In terms of other options, so the waistband is a good place, yeah, because it's reachable. In other options, I could put this up here under my arm strap there, and I can reach that. It makes it a pain to get with the other one, but I can still reach it. Now, a lot of knives come with a mounting option for sitting on the inflator hose. So they've got a little tube on the back here that will fit onto your low pressure hose and fit there. And as Martin said, his goes here, so you can reach it from here.
But not on the hose, it's on the strap. I velcro it around the strap.
Okay, so again, I've got a little mounting strap there.
Yeah.
So if I choose, I can put this up there as well. Okay, so we've got options with this kind of thing. If we start to try and do this with a big knife like this, it's a bit of a pain for bending and restricts, and it's just a case, it's more of a struggle to find space for it. In terms of our snips, remember we've got this small pouch. Again, these can fit on this kind of strap. This one would go over here. So it's got a nice wide strap that will fit through. And can be fitted, so it's prominent for you, and it's also prominent for your buddy to see. So we've got the same thing with our neck cutters as well. These will fit on these kind of straps. With a little bit of wrestling, we can get it on there, so it's nice and prominent, that it's easy to see. I do see people with them mounted on their wrists, so that on their computer straps. So you've already got a big lump on your wrist anyway. So we can thread this through our computer strap and put it on our wrist, so it's nice and handy. Again, the downside with that, it's only reachable from one hand, but it is reachable. Okay, so yeah, these things, and again, these will fit nicely anywhere. We could put that up here, or again through here. So what I'm saying is, they want to be in this area, not all the way down here, and not anywhere out of the way. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me take this off.
It would be an idea to have one on one side and one on the other side, so whatever happens, you've got one hand is going to be able to get to it.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
It would be good to have them on each side of your body. So, for instance, you could, with your right hand, you could reach up to your left, and vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, my main thing is that they're accessible. Okay, it's no good having it if you don't know where it is, if you can't get to it quickly. I've got a question about putting it, so that BC's got pockets on it, hasn't it? My dry suit's got pockets on it. Now, is it a good idea to keep them in your pockets? Discuss is really what I'm saying.
If it's got a sheath, I guess it's
okay in there, but when you really want it, when it's that squeaky bum time and you're at 40 meters and Gareth's mate's got himself caught up in that line, we want to be going rooting through pockets at that point.
Oh, I would say it's got to be a one-handed thing.
Yeah. It's got to be one-handed and somewhere prominent as well.
I've got one line cutter in my BC pocket, but it's on like a spring bungee, so I can actually go into my pocket, pull it out, and it's got a length of cord on it.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about opening pockets. I just lift the pocket open and pull it straight out on a bit of rope, and it's actually on a D-clip inside the pocket.
Right. So, and because it's because it's one of these type of deals, there's no exposed blade swinging
correct.
on that bit of string, on that bit of bungee.
Yeah.
So we're kind of avoiding that kind of danger, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that to me is the main thing. It's got to be accessible. If we take one thing away from tonight, your knife needs to be accessible. On the ankle is maybe not the best place. So it works for some people, but not for me.
I found it catches up on stuff if you got it on your calf.
It becomes more of an entanglement hazard than a help.
Yeah.
It looks impressive.
I used to have one strapped to my ankle, and when I did a backward roll off a boat, it caught on a cleat and just ripped it off.
Yeah. So it caught on a bit of the boat, did it? Or
yeah, on the cleat of the boat. I found it and put it back. I had it back again, but it's it's not the best place to have it. And I've also had it on the inside of my ankle in the early days. I don't do it anymore, obviously. But when you excuse me, when you're finning, you're just hitting it with your leg all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I would. Sorry.
No, carry on, Martin.
I'd second Bez as well. He's got his bungee or a little coily thing, because the other thing you're going to do is drop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't float.
No, which is why I found my titanium one,
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's found mine from all that time ago. So, hold on, I just want to make sure I've not missed anything.
Yeah, I've got a titanium one, which I found as well. And Danny down at Discovery Divers said, make a sheath out of a bit of some water hose, which is what I did. But it's exactly similar to the one that you initially showed with the blunt end.
Very similar.
And the hammer, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably mine. That's what you get for prodding crabs.
Well, when you said you lost one, I thought, yeah, I found it.
Seaskin.
But you're not having it back.
My first seaskin dry suit came with a big knife attachment on the dry suit. I don't do it now, but never used it. You got a knife and it attached to the dry suit.
And where was that then, Robin? Was that on your waist or on the hip? Yeah.
But it
I've seen people with dry suits with on their thigh pocket. It's got a thigh pocket for a knife.
I keep a spare one in there, but not.
Yeah, Keith's got one like that, hasn't he?
Yes. Right. So, if we can move on, is everyone happy?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is I'm going to try and cut some bits and pieces that we've looked at. So we said that there's three or two things that we're really worried about as divers. We've got monofilament line, because as Robin said at the very beginning, it's not very visible. It's made for fishing, and we don't want the fish to see it. So we as divers, it's probably our biggest hazard. We've got things like ropes, shot line. As Gareth said, there was a time that he was asked to help out on a boat. And I'm going to add harness into this as well. So sometimes we dive with people with one-piece harnesses. Okay, and I don't know if any of the people who've not completed ocean diving yet, a one-piece harness is a kind of a technical diving harness that's got no quick releases to it. So it's a single loop of harness material, and really the quickest way to get someone out of that in an emergency is going to be to cut the harness. And so I've got a bit of harness kicking around, so we're going to give that a go with a dive knife and see how we get on with that. So we're going to cut 3 things. We're going to try monofilament, we're going to try rope, and we're going to try harness. Yeah. And let's just have a little look at monofilament, in that it's fishing line, isn't it? And in isolation, it's fairly easy to cut. So what I've got on the back of my chair here, I've got some little looms of monofilament. Now, individually, they're nice and easy to cut. It's got this one's got a breaking pressure of 16 pounds. Okay. And you can see this is camouflage. So there's bits of it that are kind of, bits of it that are transparent and bits of it that are covered like this. So this is just fishing line that someone would use for coarse fishing in the UK. But in isolation, we can kind of, I can't quite break it because you can't get a grip on it, but to cut one strand is fairly straightforward. So put a little loop on it, I don't know if you can see that, but my titanium knife, that's not up to much, struggles with one strand. Oh, it's done it there, but it's a little bit of work. But if we're talking about being entangled in it, we're not talking about one strand of line. Would you agree, Gareth, when your mate got caught up in it, it was a big bundle?
Yeah, generally it all bunches up.
Yeah.
Generally it all bunches up, yeah.
So it's a big old bundle of line. And let's start at the beginning then. That Gareth's there, he's at quite a reasonable depth, and his mate's caught up in this kind of stuff. So let's also add a bit of context that Gareth is neutrally buoyant. So I'm a big fella at the moment. I can take this and I can pull against it, and I can get a bit of weight on it. But I'm sat on my backside on a chair. When I'm floating around neutrally buoyant, I may not have that leverage to pull against. Okay. So the knife we're going to use is, where's the big old boy? We're going to take the big fella and try and just chop this. There's about 6 strands here. Can you all see that?
Mm. Yeah.
And yeah, I can. Well, no, let's not cut all of them, but cut a couple. So it took me a couple of times there with a little bit of effort. So again, you see the effort that's involved there? Okay, so that's our big knife cutting monofilament line. In fact, it's still not all the way through. Okay.
And you're panicking at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's squeaky bum time. You're not having your best day, and all of a sudden it's all gone wrong. And yeah, so, and that's a bit of work. Now let's take our set of cutters. Where are we?
On your BC.
I left them on my BC. But luckily, Gareth, I've got a spare set. Don't worry about that. I did have all this planned. Okay, so we're going to take another set of these. Now, these scissors, if we just take them, we've got roughly the same amount, and we're straight through. Okay, no effort, no pulling, no messing around, straight through. If we do that again, in fact, I can double the amount that we've got there. If we take my little loom here, double it up, and try the same thing, they're straight through without any issues. And don't worry about the mess, my wife will clear that up afterwards.
Yeah. See that rolling pin behind you?
Dead man talking.
So really, the illustration there is that this one takes an awful lot of effort, and we're also going to be cutting and pulling against whoever it is that we're trying to help. Okay, let's take one last go, and we've got this net cutter. Okay, so let's double up again, I think. So we've got all, let's go through, and if we watch the effort that we have to put into this one to cut, so I'm holding finger and thumbs, and we're through like that. Okay. So is this a surprise to anybody that a net cutter cuts better than a big knife?
No, not really.
No, it's exactly what I expected. So again, I can take the double thickness again, and we can put this through. Hold on. And again, the effort needed is really minimal. Oh, is it? Hold on. And we're just cutting straight through it.
Presumably, plus fewer legal restrictions for a net cutter.
Yes, there's virtually zero, because this is the blade's enclosed.
Exactly, yeah.
And with this as well, these blades here are stainless steel, but they use a changeable. You see the screws in there?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this one costs around about 30 quid. So, and again, in diving terms, it's that expensive.
Right.
It's really peanuts, you know. So yeah, so for cutting net, really, we've got two clear winners, haven't we? We've got a set of shears and a net cutter.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone happy there then?
Yeah.
So if we look at this line that I've got, it's not a full-on rope. It's just a piece of line that I use for tying my SMB and that kind of thing, something that I keep around the garage. We talk about a shot line, it would be about 3 times as thick as this. Is that fair to say, everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, if we start with Big Bertha here, everyone see? So I can put a bit of effort in and I can get through it. Yeah, no problem there. But it needs that little bit of effort. If we take our scissors, again with virtually, well, let's do it that way, 0 effort, we're straight through. Okay, and remember, we're not having to lean on anything and get any purchase with these, because we've got the opposing edges of the shears working with us. Okay, now, and this is the kind of the difficulty with a net cutter. So this one will cut this piece of rope. This one will definitely cut this piece of rope. But if I go bigger, if I go to a full-size shot line, is it going to fit through that hole and allow us to cut? So it's not. So this is one of the limitations that we've got with a net cutter. It will go through this one, and because it's a lovely sharp blade, again, it'll go through like nothing, barely any effort at all. But there is a limitation on it, which is the width of the jaw there is how wide it can cut. Now, this other one, this older one, has got a wider angle to it, but so this will cut a bigger rope, but it's still not going to cut a very large one. Everyone happy there?
Yeah.
We've been through line and rope. Now, this stuff here is these 2-inch harness. I recently replaced the harness on my kit. So what we can also try and do is, let's say that this is Gareth and I diving, and Gareth needs to get me out of my equipment very quickly, and his hands are cold and he's in a bad mood, and all of a sudden it's all getting very difficult. So he reaches for his ankle and he picks up this bad boy, and then we'll see how we get on cutting this with. I've got to be honest, I haven't tried this, so we'll see how it works, but I'm not holding out much hope, if I'm perfectly honest. So I've got a loop. All right, we'll try it with a sawing edge. So we can get through it. Does everyone see?
Yeah.
We can get through it, but it feels like a bit of work. And also, if you're doing that close to someone's body and I'm trying to put that amount of force on it, it's going to be a bit of effort. So earlier on I mentioned that I have that pair of shears on my belt alongside my little knife. And part of my buddy check is that if someone needs to get me out, then you can chop me out using those real quickly. If we try that same bit of work using these scissors, and you can see the effort's minimal.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is really what these things are designed for, isn't it? They've also got a little flat section to them there that keeps that away from the body. Okay. So again, straight through. Now, the one last thing, the net cutter. Now, I must admit, I didn't hold out much in the way of hope for this, really, because it's not what it's designed to do. But if I hook that in there, the hook is on the back, so we've got no sharp edges touching anyone that's in here. And then if I just, it works remarkably well. If you can see that, it just slices through that, like really with almost less effort. So this fellow really cuts everything except big ropes. So, everyone happy there? We looked at 3
That's the
things.
distinct advantage. It won't chop your fingers off.
Yeah, exactly that. And the big boy over here. Do you really want me hacking away at your harness with this thing? When I think we've already seen how clumsy I am.
The chair has.
There you
Yeah.
Scarface chair, yeah.
Right. So I'm just about finished with the demonstration at the minute. I'm going to take the video off Spotlight so we're all a bit more. Hold on. Okay, so we're a bit more equal now. So what we covered there was we talked about why we carry knives, and the main reason is for entanglement. We talked about knives and the law, and we really think that we're all right on the law because we've got a good reason for it. Again, it's all about context and common sense. I think Alex put on the chat there, it's just common sense, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, common sense is the big thing there. We talked about where we're going to carry it. I think common sense tells us we're going to be in our chest, in our torso, aren't we? And then we looked at how well these knives perform, and some of them very well, some of them not so well. So if we go back to, have we got any conclusions there then? Do you think we've done enough to get some conclusions?
Well, I think if you're travelling worldwide or indeed anywhere, it's got to be that the net cutter and the scissors seem to be, the first choice.
Yeah. And I think the scissors are a very good option. I mean, what I would look at is where we carry them, where on the body are they? They want to be prominent for you and for your body. And I think that the net cutter really surprised me the most, in that if we are talking about entanglement in terms of monofilament line, that seems to be the most effective at everything. What it's not going to do is cut big ropes. So
no.
Yeah,
it's interesting though that.
Yeah, it's worth. I mean, I've had lots of knives over lots of time, and I've got not that I've got a fascination with knives. That's not really it at all. I promise you. But it's just bits of junk that you acquire over time, isn't it? So
I suppose also you don't have to spend a fortune in order to have something that's effective.
Absolutely.
Right. Some of those items they're sub £20.
Absolutely.
And it comes down to you carry a line cutter and scissors. It's the saying, if you need one, take two. So you take a line cutter, take 2 line cutters, one in your pocket, one in your belt. Take shears as well. It's not a case of just one thing for one type of diving.
I must admit, I take my knife mainly for prodding and opening things. Not so much as a cutting tool. I think I've got my shears seem to do as good a job as that as anything. So,
is it worth actually having a knife then, or is it just kind of a bit of dead weight to get in the way?
Well, I think I said I wasn't going to give any answers today, didn't I? I think that's for you to go away and think about, isn't it? And work out. So one of the club rules, I think we've only got a couple of club rules, and one of them is that you've got to carry a cutting tool. So, and not a knife, but a cutting tool. And I would start by, I think, really in answer to Stephen's question earlier, I'd start with a net cutter. And they're not a huge amount of money, and but we do want to be carrying something. Everyone wants to be carrying something, and whatever that is, it needs to be accessible, and you need to know how to use it. Yeah. Any other comments, questions, points to make?
Alex was talking about the Costa one. I bought this little thing some time ago.
Yeah.
Just another net cutter, and it just sits on my PC.
Okay. And how much was that, John, just out of interest?
Pardon?
How much was that?
It's about a tenner or something like that, not very much at all.
Sorry, I've got a tap trying to get.
And I put a bit of a elastic band because I had one and the thing kept on dropping out, so I always secure it with a bit of elastic band. And if you really need it, you're going to pull it out.
Yeah.
From what may.
And that's on your D-ring there, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got that from Paul. John, you got that from Paul.
I think I did, yeah.
Because I bought one as well.
Yeah.
Diving twins then.
Yeah. So
and no dig at titanium knives. If you spend a fortune on one, you will drop it.
well, actually, let's just, while we're here, let's have a crack at something with this titanium knife, because it's absolutely terrible. So if I don't know if you can, hold on, let me just move the camera back. Can you see this okay? Now, I'm not a skinny lad.
Really?
And it's taken me 3 goes to get through that bit of rope, whereas the neck cutter got through it without any effort at all. So yeah, I think if you buy a titanium knife, you will, and Bez will find it and never give you it back.
The thing to think about as well is that it's having these things underwater is brilliant, and that's really the key element. But some of those other knives are useful out of the water as well, when you're on the boat or on the shore, for dealing with things that, like the screwdriver end of the large knife for unlocking things, the bezel at the top for sort of banging things in place and what have you. So, having a larger knife that's useful for doing things on the boat, prizing things open, whatever, it's just as easy, just as good.
Mm-hmm.
And also think, when you do go out and buy this kit or any kit, if it's, make sure it's dexterous, both out of the water and in the water, because you're going to have thick gloves on. Your hands are going to be cold. Can you manipulate these pieces of equipment whilst your hands are cold and you've got gloves on?
Yeah, and it's all gone a little bit wrong.
I just want to add, I bought this knife 20 years ago before I knew better. And if anybody is looking for a knife, unless somebody can tell me otherwise what this is for, I would say avoid this, because this isn't serrated, it's a sawtooth. And it just catches on everything. So if you're unfamiliar with knives, just look out for that. And unless someone can tell me otherwise, I would say avoid it, because it's just useless. It catches on everything.
It looks like an excellent surface tool.
Yes.
But I got caught up with the prettiness of it over the practicality of it in my youth. And I've never taken it down simply because of that after I decided to reevaluate it.
I think we've all done that one.
Now then, what are you using now?
I've got can you see that? Yes, it's a bit like yours, but a small version. Yeah. And that's clipped onto a hose.
Okay.
And then I've got this, which it's actually got an open back, but I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
See that? So it's got a little tooth at the end to stop it being pulled out completely. Yeah. And you just press the sides in. This is an NRS rescue knife, which I think the police and recovery forces use, and that's it there. Yeah. So it's got the cutter there. This is all blunt. I haven't had it sharpened yet, but that serrated edge is very, very sharp. Yeah. But the back end of it, I think the back end here is more of a prizing tool, as is the front and screwdriver, as you said earlier. And then the cutting edge is this section here.
Yeah. Well, I think we sort of covered sort of knives and how much more difficult. There's a bottle opener in there, isn't there?
There is a bottle opener. Yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah. Essential. Well,
that's right.
I think I'm finished unless anyone else has got anything.
No. Thanks for all of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I think we're like putty in the shop's hands. You go into a shop, you see something nice and glittery and shiny, like I bought this bloody thing, and I've never used it. One of your sort of...
Yeah, exactly that. So I think really going back to what Steve said earlier, a neck cutter and a pair of scissors would do most of what we've talked about. And in fact, based on my demonstrations there, they would cover everything, wouldn't they? They do big things. And there are some neck cutters. I did notice there's a Mara's one that has a, I'm not trying to flog you or anything. There's a Mara's one that's very similar shape to this, but has got a hinged edge with a titanium blade here. So you could sort things with that. So it's got, one of them is fixed and the other one flips open and lets you cut. So I don't know. But one thing they do miss is the signalling element. So the fact that you can take a big knife or even a small knife with a nice stainless steel bit and bash it against your cylinder. So that's one of the things that we're missing there. But I don't know. I've never had to do that. No.
No.
Okay.
And if you've got a net on it, it doesn't work anyway.
Yeah. And I think the biggest hazard, I've got to be honest, the biggest hazard, both people who got caught up, we're talking about monofilament line and getting out of that. So, yeah.
Paul, thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you very much.
See you all later. Bye. See you.